This video is for parents to help you help your child be successful with learning to play the piano or any other instrument. The first tip I have for you is probably pretty obvious, but its importance just cannot be overstated, and that is to be enthusiastic about your child's growing ability to be able to play the music. Learning to play an instrument can be a long and sometimes a lonely journey, and so the more encouragement and applause and appreciation that we can show along that way, the more likely the child is to recognize their own growing skills and to want to continue. This can be very simple, things such as making comments while the child is practicing, letting them know that you hear a lot of progress in the things that they're playing, that you're noticing a difference in the confidence that they play with, or the types of music that they're doing, or the dynamics that they're playing. Any of those types of things can be helpful to the child to realize, yeah, okay, I am getting better. Another thing that can be very helpful and motivating to a child is informal performances that you can provide just in your own home even. It can be something like Grandma and Grandpa are coming to visit, so be sure that your child gets a chance to play while they are there. Or maybe there's some family friends coming over, or maybe in a church group setting or a school group setting or something such as that. Another idea that we found successful when my children were younger and learning to play the piano is at the completion of each set of level of books, we would have a piano party. And so, for example, at the end of the Book 1 series, we had a Book 1 party and then a Book 2 party and so on. I remember in particular when my son Tyler finished his Book 1 level, we had a piano party and invited some of the neighborhood boys over that Tyler liked to play with. And we sent out official invitations to the Piano Book 1 party. And then they all came, and Tyler had planned 7 or 8 songs that he wanted to play for them. And so we had given a number to each one of the songs and hidden around the room the numbers 1 through 8. And the boys were asked to look around and see if they could find a number, and when they did, that was the song that Tyler played for them. So that kept it interesting for those who weren't as used to sitting and listening to a long series of piano songs. And then at the conclusion of Tyler's playing, we played a few musical games, such as musical chairs, some things like that, had some treats, and then the kids were all just given time to play. And at the conclusion of the party, as one of Tyler's friends, Nathan, was leaving, he said, "Tyler, your Book 1 party was so fun. Hurry and get started on Book 2 so that we can do it again." And wow, was that motivating for Tyler. So peers can often provide some great motivation. Another simple thing that you can do is to just let your child hear you brag a little bit about their progress that they're making. Maybe mention to their school teacher how well they're doing in piano, or a family friend. And that can also let them know that you value their improving skills. The second tip I have for you is don't allow practicing to be negotiable. Establish it as part of your daily routine. It's much harder to enforce intermittent practicing because it's harder for the child. They've forgotten some of the things that they were doing. They've forgotten the things that we worked on together at lessons. And so practicing itself is harder, and you may find more resistance from them. So if you can establish that as just an expected everyday part of the routine, you'll probably find that practicing is much easier. The time that a child spends at the piano practicing each day may need to be a little bit flexible because some days are obviously just much busier than others. But getting the child to the piano each day is a crucial part of success in learning piano. Remember that by providing lessons in music for your child, you're really giving them 2 gifts. You're giving them the gift of music, and you're also giving them the gift of discipline. And I think both of those gifts are extremely valuable for a child. I remember as my children were growing and learning piano, and there were sometimes the grumblings and the why do we have to do this? And I reminded them that we don't live on a farm and we don't have cows in our backyard, that the children need to milk every day, whether they felt like it or not. But the good news was that we had a piano. And so they could be at the piano practicing each day, whether they felt like it or not. And that would help them to develop the same kind of discipline and hard work ethic that others that were raised on a farm, such as their great-grandparents, were able to develop. And I think this is extremely important. Most children under the age of 12 and some teens may do better with some type of an accountability element for part of their practicing, a chart that they can check off or something, and you'll find plenty of these online. So if you feel like that's something that your child would benefit from, be sure to implement that in your home. I view that as the parent's responsibility because I have no way of knowing if that's really happening. And so I leave that up to the parent, but I highly recommend it for many students and especially those under the age of 12. One other word about practicing is do be careful the structure of practicing that you set up for your child. I am not a fan of the idea of go practice each one of your songs 3 times. I think this encourages fast, sloppy practicing, which is the opposite of what we're trying to encourage. I provide notes for each week for the child to know exactly what they are working on each piece. The best kind of practicing is if the child knows exactly what their focus or their goal for practicing that song is. Maybe it's still just learning the notes and the rhythm. Maybe it's keeping a steady beat. Maybe it's extra practice on a difficult section or working on a beautiful ending. There's all kinds of different things that we would be working on. And so sometimes you may want to ask, oh, what's the goal for this piece that you're working on? Just as a reminder that they should have something in mind in particular that they're focusing on. But even a few minutes of well-spent, focused time in practicing can make a big difference. Occasionally, your child may tell you, I'm done with everything that was listed for my assignment, and you might still feel like that it hasn't taken very long at the piano. Sometimes I'm not always able to assign as much as I would like to because a lot of our lesson time is taken up in teaching new concepts. So if there's extra time that you would like your child to spend at the piano, here are some ideas of things that they could do. Going back and reviewing songs is always a fabulous thing. I tell the students just because they learned to write their name doesn't mean they stopped writing their name and they never wrote it again. Of course not. You keep writing, you get better and better at it, make improvements. Same thing with music. Dr. Suzuki actually said that the majority of a student's practice time should be refining songs that they already know. We don't tend to do that as much, but I do think that there is value in going back and reviewing songs, not to see, can I still play this, or can I play this as fast as possible, but can I play this even more beautifully now than I did when I first learned it. Students can also turn later in their books and try things that we haven't even talked about yet. I always encourage them to, I call them sneak peek ahead and see what's coming. They might enjoy making up their own song. They can learn a by ear song, which is when you might suggest, or they may have an idea of a song that they just want to see if they can figure out. There's all kinds of opportunities, and that's really an important part of piano as well, is if they just have some freedom to just spend a few minutes. Some families choose to give 1 day a week for the child's complete choice of what they do at the piano during their practicing time. Others, maybe just a few minutes each day when the child practices, can be spent in their own free time, just having some fun at the piano. The third tip I have for you is to just expect those ups and downs in motivation. They're going to happen, and it's just a normal, natural part of learning any new skill. So if your child puts up some resistance and says, this isn't fun anymore, or I don't think I want to do this anymore, don't be alarmed. It's just a normal part. It possibly means that we've come to something that's a little more challenging for them, and it feels a little hard. They will get through it. Different things are hard for different students, so I never know exactly when those ups and downs are going to come, but we just stay with it. We'll take the time we need, and it will come. So just trust the process and encourage your child to continue on. And if at the end of a year or two of piano, if they are expressing a desire to stop, At that point, then I think we need to pay attention and maybe allow them to switch instruments, to maybe make a change in teacher, whatever is needed, so that they know that they are listened to. But those normal ups and downs are just going to be part of learning a new skill. The last tip I have for you is to remember that learning to play an instrument is like learning to speak a foreign language. And the more a child can listen to that language, the easier it will be for them to learn to play the instrument. They need to hear it performed in a variety of ways and a variety of sounds and a variety of genres. So perhaps you could YouTube, and there are all kinds of opportunities to listen to beautiful piano music and suited to the types of music that they might enjoy. It doesn't all need to be classical. Just by even YouTubing beautiful piano music, you'll get a lot of variety. You could also do a Pandora channel, starting with one of the artists that they really enjoy. For example, maybe Piano Guys, and then let the Pandora channel start branching out a little from there. But giving the child opportunities to hear beautiful music will help them to be able to adapt their playing and start to incorporate some of the nuances of playing that beautiful music. I hope you have found these tips helpful to you. Remember, our first one was to be enthusiastic about your child's progress in piano. The second was to don't allow practicing to become negotiable. Remember, you're giving them the gift of music as well as the gift of discipline. The third one was to don't be surprised when there's ups and downs in the level of motivation. You can just expect that. And the fourth is to remember to provide opportunities for your child to hear music played in a beautiful way so that then they can imitate that in the way that they play the piano. I hope you have found these tips helpful. This is just a series of resource videos, some for parents and some for students, to help along the journey of learning to play the piano. Feel free to leave any comments that you may have, and also any suggestions of topics that you feel might be helpful. It's a great journey, and I wish you the best.